So my friend responded, percentage reason, less than 0.5% victim of rape, 3% fetal health problems, 4% physical health problems, 4% would interfere with education or career, 7% not mature enough to raise a child, 8% don't want to be a single mother, 19% done having children, 23% can't afford a baby, 25% not ready for a child, 6% other. And my friend continues, and all of these should be considered. Her choice, and I would even put it out there and say that what's the alternative? Adoption when it costs $10,000 for the whole adoption process? Not enough people are saving up that much, let alone to adopt a child. So another one of her friends chimed in. Let's not talk only about the woman's physical health on the subject of pregnancy and abortion. Mental and emotional health is a huge part. If you asked me to raise my rapist child while still mending emotionally and mentally from the rape, I would not be able to. Kudos to you, Ann, for being strong enough to do that. Everyone is different and should be allowed to make their own life-changing choices. So then I responded, and this is something we've talked about right on this very show before. I said, do you know how many children in the U.S. available for adoption reach age 18 without having been placed in a permanent home? So Ann decided to respond to me directly and say, so the answer is to kill any new babies? What, or bad living conditions? Well, you caught the wrath, Ann. Here you go. Number one, fetuses are not babies. Let me repeat that. For the so-called pro-life, they're actually pro-fetus people. Fetuses are not babies. Period. Full stop. Fetuses are not babies.
What do you say, Darren, when they say that life begins at conception, medically, scientifically?
Jim Garner used to say on the show, life begins at erection. That's how they feel. Number two, I'm telling her that adoption is not the be-all, end-all. And since she didn't answer my question, here's the answer. This is according to a quantitative study of 21st century performance of foster care in the United States. It was written by Albert Gahami, dated May 4th, 2017. Here's the first sentence of his report. Roughly 10% of U.S. foster children leave foster care without any permanent family or home, which is known to sharply increase a person's likelihood for unemployment, homelessness, and incarceration. There you go. 10%. By the way, that number runs, depending on what year it is, anywhere from 13,000 to 18,000 people every single year in this country that are available for adoption, and they never find a permanent home by the time they hit the age of 18. That's not hyperbole. That's data. That's hard facts, folks. Go ahead, Jack. I can't.
There was a friend of ours, I'm not going to use her name, that posted a personal story. I don't know if you saw that on Facebook. And that story indicated that she was in a place financially and with a number of children that she loved very much. And because of the love for those children, saw the approaching pregnancy as an anchor that was going to cause damage to the entire family. A very difficult choice. Brought her to an abortion. Mm-hmm. And I was curious about how, and I'm abbreviating the story. You can add, I think you know her better than I.
Yes.
You can add facts to that. But what I was curious about would be the backlash saying that this is a life, this life that you aborted, its allowance to continue outweighs the allowance of equality of some level for the rest of the children and for the family and for the mother and for the stress and the financial burden, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a society that believes that the life itself, no matter how undeveloped and debated that it's not a life until a certain term, outweighs the peace of mind and the love and for the rest of the children. She took the decision. She had the abortion. Nobody could question her. I didn't see a single dissenting comment.
No.
I heard very brave, a tough decision, but a brave decision, a courageous decision. Because when you take the person's life around it, just don't say mother, and the circumstances, which are never entered into this consideration, then you remove the stigma, murder, and all those other monikers, because the woman's life suddenly has weight to it when you put the meat of like the story to the issue. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a single person. It was out there on Facebook. Nobody jumped on this person and said, you snuffed the life out, the same old argument you constantly hear. It's no different than when we see the video that where they machine gunned all the people we talked about last week. They came out with the Assange WikiLeaks. I don't know how many people it was. And it was a bloodlust. It was just a shooting. And, they're like target practice. You don't know they have kids at home. You don't remember that they love their mother. You don't see them as human beings. They've got a sight on a little scurrying animal down on the pavement that they blew away. You take away the human aspect, you dehumanize them, and this woman brought a very human testimony. You could tell she was opening her heart, and not a single person found fault with her.
Mm-hmm. I want to read something that a dear friend of mine that I have known since she was like 18 or 19 years old. She just posted this to Facebook this morning. I want to read this to everybody. Hey, friends from Ohio, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi. Basically, really anyone, anywhere who feels unsafe. If you need to visit your college friend, your long-lost relative in Michigan, send me a message. No judgment, no questions. I'll be here. I'll pick you up at a checkpoint, the airport, the bus station. Give you a ride to and from your appointment, hold your hand, cry with you, show you around, and give you a peaceful place to escape. We can keep things as anonymous as possible, or I'll treat you like we've been best friends for years. I want you to feel comfortable. We can take some pictures, buy souvenirs, and or eat some great food. For your social media, for those potential new state border checks just to prove all the cool stuff we did. And everything will be okay. Maybe not right away, but everything will be okay. Let's face it, it's been too long since we've seen each other.
Well, that's
very poignant.
That's the sentiment that is conveyed. And I have shared with you, Darren, the protests right here in this city in front of an abortion clinic. And I have stood there arguing with religious people. And I point out to them that their God, the God that's portrayed in the Holy Bible, the big black-clad Holy Bible, to prove a point, killed every firstborn male in Egypt. Mm-hmm. Now, that's beyond a cellular multiplicity or whatever you call a zygote. I'm not a doctor. Yeah. But these were living babies that did nothing wrong to incur and I don't know what the slaughter was. Didn't an angel fly around and just the wailing in the middle of the night? They were all killed or summarily killed. I don't know how many people are in Egypt, but a lot of firstborn males. He killed them. And they look at me like, no, that didn't. I said, yeah. Here, get that Bible out. Get it out of its case. Take a look. Those were innocent lives. And now you beat down on us with your moral drum continuously that it's immoral to kill a fetus when you're using your Bible as your compass for moral direction. What a contradiction. All they do is get totally pissed, Darren. They get totally pissed. They don't respond. They won't look at the verses. You can hold them right in their face.
The plagues of Egypt, right?
Yeah. But the most gruesome one was killing all the firstborn males. You remember Yul Brynner? Didn't he play Pharaoh in the robe, or I don't know which one it is? Comes out carrying his son. God killed him.
Let me read it here. I've got it from Exodus 11:4-6. This is what the Lord says. About midnight I will go through Egypt. Every firstborn son in Egypt will die, from the firstborn son of the Pharaoh who sits on the throne to the firstborn of the slave girl who is at her handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle as well. There will be loud wailing throughout Egypt, worse than there has ever been or ever will be again. That's Exodus.
Yeah, but they don't see that part. They don't. Darren.
Because they cherry pick.
A little more background.
I'll be controversial right here. They're just like damn near every other Christian that I know. They cherry pick that damn Bible. They don't read the whole thing cover to cover and live by it. No, they cherry pick.
I've seen estimates that the evangelist that will have their hands out Sunday, a few days from now, they have been qualitative. They have been checked. They use less than 5% of the Bible over and over. No, I'm talking about the verses that they use. 5%. They don't talk about the woman who's menstruating, who's to be driven out of the city. They don't talk about you can't eat a shrimp. Right?
Yeah.
They don't use the idiocy of the majority of the Bible. They take 5%, and that 5% doesn't include what you just read. And what you just read, real quickly, also has something else interesting. The story goes that Moses goes to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go," right? Mm-hmm. And that, I guess that was God's will, right? Didn't Moses speak for God? But lo and behold, what we find out is God says, "I made Pharaoh say you can't go." He did it. He said, "For this very reason, I raised up Pharaoh." So you have God making Pharaoh do this decree, which then pisses God off, that then causes him to kill all the firstborn. If that doesn't send a person to a mental breakdown, that's just what little Bible exposure I've had. Mm-hmm. But you won't get that far with them.
No.
They get indignant. They start slamming their sign around, and it's hard to keep from punching these loonies because they cause a lot of damage. They sit there and berate these women coming in. I don't know their life situation. I'm not going to pass judgment on it. But I know by God, there you go, it's legal to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And you're down there talking to me about laws while you're helping this woman think about avoiding her own life's benefit. I'm 70 years old, Darren. This issue has gone on all my life. I can remember debates in college over this, and the emotion, and you're looked at like the biggest piece of scum in the world when you support abortion by these people. Demons. The accusation is that these thoughts that we're even sharing right now are motivated by demons. I've heard Christians say that. Anybody that supports abortion, you're getting your directions right straight from the pit of hell.
Yep.
Direct quote.
Yep. And I'm sorry for you Christian listeners out there if you've been offended, but I'm sorry, I just don't give a anymore. Done. All right, we need to move on. So for everybody that identifies as right to life, you're actually right to feed us. Let's call it the way you are. Thank you for winning this week, and we have a message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You all need to stop being douchebags and stop trying to control other people.
Yeah, Darren, before we leave this topic and move to Inman, which is equally repulsive, we know that the Democratic Party has supposedly supported abortion. At least that's what I thought for decades. If you go back to 1981, I found this interesting. It was a new era in Washington in 1981, and abortion rights activists were terrified. With an anti-abortion President Ronald Reagan in power and Republicans controlling the Senate for the first time in decades, social conservatives pushed for a constitutional amendment to allow individual states to overturn Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court ruling that had made abortion legal nationwide several years early. This is 1981. They're battling in 1981, but we had one Democrat speak up on this issue.
Yeah.
Okay. The amendment, which the National Abortion Rights Action League called the most devastating attack yet on abortion rights, cleared a key hurdle in the Senate Judiciary Committee in March of 1982. Support came ubiquitously from all Republicans, but not just from all Republicans. A young 39-year-old second-term Democrat also supported this attack. His name, Joseph R. Biden Jr.
Joe Biden.
He didn't just support it, he voted for it. He later said it was a difficult vote, just like his vote for the Iraq War. It was difficult.